Oh yeah, hey, hey. Black man unite, black man no fight. Black man unite, black man no fight. It's time you stop your fussing and fighting. It's time you stop your looting and shooting. It's time you stop all them kind of war and hold your brother and shake his hand.
Since Richard Nixon's declaration of a war on drugs in 1972, the number of men in prison has skyrocketed as men of color began to fill the cells of a prison industrial complex that now holds more than 2 million Americans. The heroin epidemic of the 70s, followed by the cocaine and crack epidemic of the 1980s, turned our inner city neighborhoods into war zones. And as we have talked about on many of our previous broadcasts, there is ample demonstration that the flooding of the inner cities to disrupt voting patterns was a well-established and thought-out plan. I want you to visit my website, wbpnet.org. Click the button there that says End the War on Drugs and see a simple proposal for drastically reducing what some people now estimate to be the $500 billion cost of drug abuse to American society.
So, you want the news and information without the hate, the hype, the fear? Well, you've come to the right place. You can support Truth Frequency Radio by spreading the word on social networking sites like Facebook, Twitter, or your favorite forums. Want to take Truth Frequency Radio on the road? Listen on your iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, or other mobile devices. Want more than just the free stuff? Sign up for a VIP membership for as little as $4 a month and get super high-quality downloads, member-only content, and instant access to your favorite shows without the wait. It's only through your loving support that we're able to cover the cost and continue broadcasting. So now, stay tuned for more Free Speech Radio right here on the Truth Frequency Radio Network. KTFRN. Worldwide.
Exposing the hate and exploring the love. This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to the White Buffalo Hour. This is John Phillips, your host. Today we have been discussing a proposal that we have been circulating among gang members in Boston called Boston Gang Members United for Peace, a marijuana growing collective and medical cafe whose members would be dedicated to ending the cycle of violence in Boston, putting down their weapons, and learning to heal their nation and their community. In relationship to the war on drugs, we all know the consequences to society of Richard Nixon's declaration of war on drugs. We even at this point have testimony from people within the Nixon administration that Richard Nixon needed something to run on during the election, and that the war on drugs seemed like a good idea, but in reality what happened was a huge federal bureaucracy grew, and those who know the history of drug enforcement by the DEA and the FBI's involvement in the narcotics trade, there are many who can testify out there that these agencies, the main role that they played was in one of moving the trade from one group or another, and in most cases they were protecting people in our own military and our own Central Intelligence Agency, who, according to recent sources, retired CIA employees, moved more than $7 trillion worth of drugs worldwide since the Vietnam War. But with the final recognition in Massachusetts that marijuana is in fact a medicine, we are now faced with the most astonishing anomaly in our scientific data. Many of the young men who fill our prison cells are incarcerated for smoking, selling, distributing, and in general associating themselves not with an illegal drug, but with an important medicine, and I would like to suggest today the most important medicine we have for addressing the issue of gang violence in our inner city neighborhoods. I have argued for more than 2 decades that there is a direct correlation between the price of marijuana and the rate of homicide in our inner cities. And I often wondered if Black Hawk helicopters might be better used dropping bales of the leaves of the tree that are for the healing of the nation into our inner city neighborhoods instead of killing innocent women and children abroad. While walking home from church one fine Sunday spring day, I turned around to see what the commotion was happening behind me in the street, in my quiet little piece of Boston in Upham Corner, Dorchester, Massachusetts. I witnessed a typical urban drug deal gone bad. A rival gang had decided that they were going to sell some weed in forbidden territory. Drug wars are territorial disputes, as we know, and those who controlled the trade had decided that they would disrupt their rivals' competition in their neighborhood. The local crew sent a couple of very young teenage boys to do a grab and run. In other words, asked to take a look at the product, and as they inspected it, take off down the street for the safe haven of their protected territory. Guns drawn, 3 young adults on a Sunday after church ran past us as we carried our groceries home to prepare our Sunday dinner, over $10 worth of marijuana. The most important fact ignored by the Justice Department in the United States and here in Massachusetts is that the majority of weapons used in violent crime in our city and in urban centers across the United States are purchased with profits from the illegal drug trade. If you dry up the source of income from the illegal drug trade, the money to purchase weapons will simply disappear. No money, no market. Now, William James believed that it was impossible to separate one's physical health from his own spiritual health, and this is why limiting the field of medicine to one particular subgroup would have the effect of killing research in the field of medicine. Doctors, as you might remember at the turn of the century, were convinced that experiences of religious enlightenment were caused by biological imbalances in the brain and therefore had no place in modern medicine. Now, if we were to take a biblical approach to the problem of inner city violence, one might start with the simple fact that to enter the kingdom of God, one must become like a child again. And in my own humble opinion, this is exactly what the basic moral problem is in our inner cities that has led to its ultimate demise. Boston's inner city children do not have childhoods, and if you've never had a childhood, then how can you ever become like a child again? No matter how great the school system is here in Boston or New York or Dallas or any place in the United States, if children come home to an environment like the neighborhood I have lived in for the last 5 years in Upham Corner, Dorchester, Massachusetts, the chances that a child will overcome the influences of the subculture that lives on the street in all of our inner city neighborhoods where gun violence is epidemic are slim to none.